Hello everyone, my name is Dillon Dixon from the Center for Learning and Student Success, and welcome to the classroom. This is an interview series where we're going to be interviewing different influential student leaders and faculty members on campus, and today we have our first guest, Dr. Rachel Derr. Dr. Rachel Derr is a program director for the pre-licensure programs and is a clinical assistant professor for the School of Nursing. She obtained her BSN from Widener University and her MSN and DNP from Duquesne University. She's also a certified nurse educator and is additionally certified in low-risk neonatal nursing. We're so happy to have you, Dr. Derr. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got to Rutgers.
So I started teaching nursing back in 2005. And in 2007, I started full-time at Holy Family University in Philadelphia, teaching. And then I moved from there. I wanted to be a little closer to home. I live in New Jersey, so I thought Rutgers would be a good place, and I'm so glad that I moved. I've been here since 2016 in my faculty role since 2019, and Rutgers Camden has been such a wonderful, welcoming place for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. It's awesome to hear. And any hobbies, anything you do outside of nursing?
So, hobby-wise, I don't know if it's necessarily a hobby, but I do have 2 rescue dogs that I love very much.
Wow.
I have 3 kids. My oldest is going to be 22 soon. It's my son. My daughter is 19, and then I have a 13-year-old who's in 8th grade, my other son.
Wow, that's amazing. You're busy.
I'm also married.
All right, great. Well, we'll just jump right into it. So the first question is just about the nursing major in general. It's such a hard major. I have so many friends that are just talking about how challenging it is. I would say from your perspective, what would you say is the most challenging thing for first year students?
I would say the most challenging thing is learning how to think like a nurse. So thinking like a nurse is a little different than what students are used to. So traditionally in school, it's lecture style teaching with memorization and recall of information, whereas in nursing, it's different. Instead of the lecture with the recall and memorization, we kind of ask students to take information and then analyze that information and decide then what they're going to do with that information. So instead of the teacher being the giver and the student being the receiver of information, the student has to do a little of that receiving up front before they go to class, because our classes are a little different in where we're asking the students to apply the information. So students might be asked to read a chapter in a textbook or complete an online learning module, and then come to class, and then we do activities in class that help them to apply that information so they can reframe their thinking from the receive, memorize, recall to the receive, then apply, analyze and apply.
Interesting. So you would say it's more so application and experiential learning.
Definitely application and experiential learning. It involves refining critical thinking, developing clinical judgment, and all of that takes some time. So students might get a little frustrated in the beginning because it's different and change is never easy. And it just takes a lot of practice. And once you practice it and start using it in every day, then it just becomes, it reframes the way you think. It becomes much easier. But it takes time, so it's kind of getting over that hurdle.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest things.
Yeah, so for someone who is used to a different style of teaching, like the traditional style, what would you say is, how would you recommend that they kind of get over that hump, that transition?
To try not to be resistant.
Okay.
Because some students, when they're having difficulty with it because it's something new, they kind of close off and they try and force themselves or force learning back into their old patterns. And what we need them to do is just change the way they're thinking. So I would say embrace the change.
Okay, interesting. So then for the students that have found that it really fits them being a nursing student, what characteristics would you see in the students that are successful there? Would you say like open-mindedness, different things, embracing that change?
Open-mindedness, and the ability to adapt to different things. Nurses have to think on their feet and change what they're doing in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to be flexible.
Interesting, yeah. Flexible. That flexibility, I mean, you probably were so tested when it came to the pandemic, having to adapt, right?
Certainly, yes. Being in person is easier.
Yeah.
It's easier to have those active learning strategies, and that we do in nursing.
Mm-hmm.
And when we switched to the pandemic, it was like abrupt. Now you need to do it this way.
Yeah.
And we had to come up with ways for our students to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only do we want them to be good nurses, but we prepare them for a licensing exam.
Yeah.
So we want our students to be successful. And we had to come up very quickly with ways to transition the virtual learning platform to make it more active. We did things like polling, case studies. One thing that I did was social annotation, and that's where the students will read the article together as a class, but it's an online type activity. Then they can comment on the article and respond to their comments. So it's like they're annotating in real time with their peers. And that seemed to work well as well.
Interesting. So it seems like nursing education went through a lot of changes due to the pandemic.
Yes, and it was hard at first,
Mm-hmm.
but some of those changes, it's great that we did that, right? Because now we have new things in our toolkit for teaching, right? And that we know is working now. Also, it has made teaching us more agile as teachers
Mm-hmm.
to respond to the different learning needs of our students. And it also has improved communication.
Yeah.
Whereas before, we wouldn't have even considered having a Zoom meeting with a student who wanted to meet with us but couldn't make it to office hours. But now we have that option.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see how it's changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How would you say, from the student perspective, because obviously the pandemic changed so much for nurses all around the world, for students who are maybe wondering, is this something that I can even do? It's so much harder now. There's so many different challenges. What would you say to students that might be wondering if nursing is right for them in this new era that we have?
So I would say that if you want to be a nurse, you want to be a nurse. Nursing is a calling.
Yeah, it's a passion.
It's a passion. And we're working with people to improve health outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that passion, if you have that calling, I would say follow your heart, right? Maybe some of the things that happened with the pandemic might have discouraged individuals from wanting to become a nurse, just seeing those things in the media. But there's so many different areas where you can use a nursing degree. Like you could use it at the bedside, you can use it in the community, you can use it in schools as school nurses. And right now I'm using my degree in education. We also have research and pharmaceuticals. There's so many different ways that you can use a nursing degree. So if you have that calling, if you have that passion, I would say follow your heart and go for it.
I love that advice, because for me, I can just, even in my own major, I have my different challenges too, but I would find that whenever I'm wondering if it's the right thing for me too, that's always what I go back to. I'm like, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely relate to that. I think other people will too.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then the final question, I would just say, what advice would you give to students who are currently studying to become an RN?
I would say don't wait too long to get help. We know that nursing is a challenging major, and it's because we have people's lives in our hands, right? But in school, we have to impart to you all of that information you need to be a generalist practicing nurse when you graduate and to pass that NCLEX and be successful. So sometimes students are maybe intimidated to ask for help,
Yeah.
or afraid or nervous. I would say don't wait too long. We are all here to help students succeed. So whether it's your faculty, we have a nursing student success coach,
Okay.
advisors, the Center for Learning and
Mhm.
Student Success. We are all here to either give you the help you need or guide you in the right direction where you can receive that help.
I will second that. Yes, definitely. If you guys are looking for tutoring or just success coaching in any way, especially for nursing students who are most likely watching this, you guys probably need it the most out of anyone, so definitely second that. That's great advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And for classes that people may be taking, nursing students, which would you recommend they get tutoring the most for? Which ones are the most difficult, would you say?
So I would say being strong in anatomy and physiology is really important to nursing.
Okay.
And then any of the nursing courses, like when you start in Foundations of Nursing and Health Assessment. Nursing seminar, they're like the beginning classes that you take, and that's when that shift in the way you think has to start happening. And if you find, like if a student finds that they're having trouble at that point, that's the time. That's the time to get that help. I had students today ask me in class today, I'm having trouble managing my time. I'm like, yeah, we can help you with that.
I can relate, yeah.
Yeah.
So anatomy and physiology.
Yes.
And foundations of nursing.
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. Good to know. So yeah, keep that in mind, guys. Anatomy.
Yeah. And that's in the beginning. I would say moving further along, like pharmacology is often a subject that students have trouble with.
Okay.
Just keep an eye out for those courses and seek that help early when you need it.
Yes, definitely seek that help. Yes. Great, good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great interview. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so
Thank
happy
you.
to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and that concludes our first interview for the classroom. Stay tuned for next ones, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.
All right.